Welcome to the WakeUp Protocol. I am your host, Nadja Haldimann, and together we're having life-changing conversations with real people about spiritual awakening and the transformations that follow. We're mapping the messy path of awakening so you can go further faster and feel a little less alone along the way. Ahna Hendrix, welcome to the WakeUp Protocol.
Thank you so much for having me, Nadja.
What a pleasure to do this special episode with you today. You are a spiritual guide, a Akashic Soul Channel, and a podcaster. And our paths have crossed about 15 years ago when you were a user of a social media platform that I was part of the design team for, called Intersect. Today's episode is going to be really special. We're going to be doing a 2026 Akashic Records forecast. And I have been witnessing your journey over the years, and you've been doing so many fascinating things, both in the physical realm and in the non-physical realm. And over the last few years, you got really deep into the spiritual work and into the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records have always been something of interest to me, but somehow I never really got deep into it. It's just, there's so many things and we only have so much time. So when you approached me with the possibility of doing a 2026 forecast, I thought that would be a fantastic special episode we can put in at the end of 2025 to give people a little bit of an idea of what's coming. So just to start with, and for our listeners and also for myself, what are the Akashic Records?
Yeah, so I know that, the Akashic Records are pretty esoteric still. I'm excited that as my journey with the Akashic Records has been unfolding, that they're becoming more and more well-known, which I think is wonderful, certainly within the collective in and of itself. So the easiest way to understand what the Akashic Records are, if you are brand new and you have no idea, is to consider the Apple or Google Cloud, right? We know that they exist. We know we can put things in them. And when we want to go get those things, we just access these clouds, right? They might be photos, audios, videos, whatever the case may be, but we don't really know what they are. We haven't seen what this cloud is. We don't mentally know how to kind of wrap ourselves around it. So the Akashic Records are very similar. The Akasha exists within and around us. Akasha is Sanskrit for ether, and so it is that which is between. Because everything is energy, everything has an Akashic record attached to it. And when you work within the Akashic Records, you are working in a very high vibration. It's so high, in fact, that you are working in a different dimension. And within that dimension, you are able to access Akashic Records for everything, past, present, future. Because if you think about it, like every energetic imprint has a record that is attached to it. And the Akasha gives us access to being able to experience these things from that perspective. So the way that I like to describe the Akashic Records, the way that I view them is soul records. Whenever you're accessing the Akashic Records for something, it doesn't just tell you about this thing. It goes right down to the root of its origination. It tells you the why, maybe the benefits, the challenges, whatever it is that's going on, and offers it up to you as context. And then it hands it right back to you, which is something that I absolutely love about the Akasha and why I consider them to be the greatest tool for self-empowerment, because the Akasha will never tell you what to do. They won't tell you how to run your life. They respect your sovereignty, and they are constantly reminding us that we are the creators of our life. So they're happy to give us direction. They're happy to offer up information, but then they hand it back to us to then make the decision. Mm-hmm. The Akasha exists within the frequency of love. It is God energy. And so everything is within the Akasha, which is pretty awesome and also kind of mind-blowing to think about.
Wow. Thank you for the explanation. This is really fascinating. I'm just so excited to get in. How do you recommend we continue?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of context in regards to what we'll be doing today with going into the Akashic Records. One of the things I think is important for your audience to know is that, and they may already know this, right? Time is a human construct, meaning that when I open up the Akashic Records, which I'm going to be doing for the listeners of the WakeUp Protocol, regardless of when you come to this message, whether it's like when it goes live or even a couple of years down the road, because of course, Nadja is not going anywhere, there's going to be something here for you. And so if you are drawn to an Akashic message, whenever it may be, understand that's for a reason and a purpose. And I just encourage you to really take that in. Anytime that you listen to a channeled message from someone else, it also accesses your own channel. So as we move through today and I'm answering questions for you, really tune in, really see what comes up for you, connect with any insights you may have, anything that comes forward. And if in the midst of my kind of breaking it down or talking about it, I say something different, that's okay. Trust your own channel, trust your own intuition, and trust how it's landing with you. Because I might channel about something and it brings up something completely different. And that is divine and meant to be. We all very much are our own guides, and discernment is huge whenever working within any modality. The Akashic Records are the safest place to be in the spiritual world. Yet probably the number one mainstay of the work that I do is continually bringing people back to their own truth, their own wisdom, because we don't ever want to give that power up to anyone, regardless of who it may be. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you think may be helpful for your listeners to know about the Akashic Records?
Yeah, I assume that most of my listeners are on a spiritual journey. They either have gone through their own spiritual awakening or they're realizing that there's more to themselves than they are giving themselves permission to experience in this time they're in right now. And so I think it might be helpful for my listeners to get a little bit of context around how to live a more soul-aligned reality in this current time that we're in.
Yeah. So what I can say and speak into that, the Akashic Records, my work in the Akashic Records, it always comes back to the self. And I've already channeled through and really kind of been digging into the energy of 2026 through the Akashic Records for my podcast audience and just the work that I'm creating for 2026 in general. This is a really huge year for us to be developing that relationship with self, to be really cultivating that connection. And it's going to be different for every person in regards to what they're called to. Some people are going to really be connected to meditation. Others might be really connected to EFT, right? Like tapping. Others like through journaling. Perhaps you may pick up a modality and really want to work with it. It could be tarot, it could be mediumship, it could be any of these things. And or what I believe is just as spiritual is like taking care of your physical body, prioritizing joy and fun and play in your life, especially in these times. And so as we move forward, this is where we have to come back to, is the home base within all of us. All of these tools are just that, they're tools. And I love the Akashic Records because, again, I view them as the greatest tool for self-empowerment. They're always bringing me back to myself. Always, always, always. It's so easy for us to give our power away, to look for something else, to look to someone else. And we kind of constantly need that reminder that like, hey, all the answers are within. My wisdom will always guide me. It will always take care of me. And as the world literally is going to be crumbling around us over the next several years, the peace is always here. The joy is always here. And we are fully responsible for cultivating that in our life.
I absolutely love what you just shared and how much we are in alignment with our work that we're doing and the messages also that are coming from the records. I'm actually in the process right now of putting a 6-month program together called Journey to the Self, where we're going through a 3-pillar process of really finding back to self, becoming the observer, doing the somatic work to integrate it, and then taking inspired action towards really showing up in our highest version. So this is a beautiful synchronicity, and I'm so excited to see what the records have to say about the self as well, and really digging into that during this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you ready to dive into the Akashic Records?
I am, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, a couple of things for those who are tuning in. If you are driving, please be very careful. Sometimes when I open up the Akashic Records, people really feel that energy intensely. So please just be mindful of this. Also, I'm going to be walking you through a little bit of a grounding practice before I open up the Akashic Records. So again, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. You can revisit this later. I will be opening up the Akashic Records and then we'll just dive into questions from that space. Or would you like me to channel a general message for your audience first, Nadja?
I'm going to completely leave this up to you, whatever feels most intuitive to you right now.
Okay. So what we'll do is after I open up the Akashic Records, if they want to bring forward a general message, then I'll share that. Otherwise, we can dive right into your questions. I just invite you to join me in closing your eyes and beginning to tune in. And just taking a couple of breaths. And just noticing your breath, noticing its pace, noticing how it's moving through your body. No need to change anything. Just following your inhales and your exhales. And I just invite you to go into that stillness, to really connect internally with yourself and your body. To step into a place of awareness, to fully take in today's Akashic messages. And just to remember that this piece is always, always available. So just go ahead and place your palm right over the center part in your chest, right over your heart chakra. Just connecting that hand chakra to heart chakra, tuning into that space, just taking a moment to notice if there is anything there for you. The Akasha always speaks through the heart. So we're just going to take 3 deep breaths, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth to a count of 5. And on that last exhale, we'll sigh everything out. So just take a moment, take a breath to prepare. And we'll begin. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Inhale. And sigh everything out. Okay. Now I'm going to open the Akashic Records. Holy Spirit of God, please help me to share the message that the masters, teachers, and loved ones have for the listeners of the Wake Up Protocol. To keep me in your light so I may help guide and teach to your full potential, being guided and protected by Guru energy and the Holy Spirit of God. Keeping all forms of self-centeredness aside, I enter the listeners of the Wake Up Protocol's records by the grace of God and the Holy Spirit. I enter the listeners of the Wake Up Protocol's records by the grace of God and the Holy Spirit. The records are now open. Masters, teachers, loved ones, please channel through practical, clear, useful information for us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And they do want to share a general message. So there's a wind that rises higher and higher. It goes up into the sky. Yes, it brings down sunshine and wind that makes its way through your hair, breathes its life upon your skin, moves in and all around you. For it is you. It is life. It is living. It is all that is taking place in the present and in the here and now. There are things that are changing all around you. We bring you back to center. We bring you back to self, that steady ground that lies beneath you, the one you often forget about because your focus is so much on everything that is happening around you, what you must do, those to-do lists. Why those lists? Yes, they get in the way from living, don't they? The being, the going, the seeing, the doing. There are so many things that are happening at any given time. And yet, of course, in these times, there is so much more stacked upon that. Stacked, stacked, stacked. These are important times, changing times, times in which everything is breaking apart and crumbling simply so that it can be rebuilt stronger, steadier, more sure, more loving, more supportive. For you are being brought back to yourself, even in the midst of so much change, so many layers that are being peeled back one by one. The purging that has been taking place this year, why, yes, it has gone deep. It has taken you into ridges and corners, fearful places, places which you would prefer not to go. So you have continued busying yourself, hoping that things would improve and better. And yes, of course, at times they did, but then it brought you right back to looking at the things you needed to look at beforehand because they were important, because they were meant to be exfoliated, looked at, reviewed, so that you could walk forward, renewed, open, better able and capable to take on all that which is coming your way. Know that as you move forward on this journey within self, within life, amongst the collective, you're going to be seeing so much. So as we have shared so many times through this channel, and of course you have been hearing yourself, you must come back to self. This year is a year for this, and you will be invited into this in so many different ways. Know that the outside world can only offer you up so much. That happiness you seek, the fulfillment you're looking for, the ways in which you have always wanted to satisfy oneself. You won't find this in your exterior world. No, you must come back within. Understand that 2026 is going to be a reckoning in and of itself. It's going to be a year of laying the foundations, of getting to know things in a good way. And the collective at large has not yet decided which direction it wants to go. No, there are so many avenues, so many ways in which it could rebuild itself. But first, the years to come are about the breaking down, which is why you must build yourself up in the midst of it. For understand that even though things may crumble around you, you can thrive. In fact, you can greatly succeed. You can find joy. You can find all it is that you have ever dreamed about in the midst of these times. They will come to you more steadily, more easily. Your dreams can be built. Never give them up. Never put them aside. Come back to self. Come back to that which is within. Look for those guides and teachers, the communities that can assist in lifting you up when you need to be buoyed amongst life's chaos. For know that there will be much. But remember, you chose to be here during this time, meaning that you are fully equipped. And even now, in the here and now, you have everything that you will ever need. But what's really beautiful about that is The guides really felt very strongly. It's so interesting how this collective, your audience, the WakeUp Protocol, how they feel energetically. And it's almost like the Akasha wants to give them a big hug and wants to just remind them that, like, it's going to be okay. You have everything you need. You don't need to worry. You don't need to get lost in fear, right? But it's just such really beautiful and tender energy for this container, your container, Nadja. It's just really beautiful.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful message, and so affirming that the self is truly where it all begins and ends, and that's where we have our power, where we're in our sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask a first question?
Yes, let's dive in.
So how can we step into the frequency of love in 2026 and truly reach our full potential as individuals?
You must understand that the frequency of love is always around you. It is always with you, for that is the essence of who you are. It is simply that living on this very 3D planet disconnects you from this aspect of yourself. It confuses you. It overwhelms you. It conditions you to be human, to have human experiences. For, of course, it is so important for you to have these human experiences here on planet Earth. That is why you came here, why you chose to be here. Understand that if Earth was meant to be living in the frequency of love, then that is where she would have started from. But no, Earth is here to help you, to grow, to expand, to move through, and to eventually return to the essence of who you are. That is why it is so important to connect with who you are in the midst of all that is taking place at this time. When you allow yourself to get caught up in life, to get caught up in your to-do list, to get lost in all the things that are taking place on planet Earth around you, you disconnect from this frequency, from the frequency that you are. And this is, of course, why spiritual practice is so important in these times, so that you can come back, so that you can remember who you are, so that you can reconnect to that which is within. For it is by being within that you will be able to reconnect with this. There are examples of love everywhere that you look on this planet. And indeed, by paying attention to what it is that is around you, you will continue to see and experience that frequency of love. But never forget, it is the essence of who you are. Therefore, if you find it difficult to experience in your external world, that tuning back in can bring you back to this place within yourself. Understand that the frequency of love isn't connected to through achievement, through striving, through pushing and shoving. It is in being. It is in presence. It is in gratitude. It is in also decision, choosing to see things from different perspectives, choosing to give people the benefit of the doubt, choosing to educate yourself instead of judging, choosing to live a life of love. Therefore, do not forget that even though this is your frequency, that you must also continue to choose to live within this on a daily basis. Again, that is why spiritual practice is of such assistance, for it can help you to reconnect with this, and then you can bring this frequency out into the world. It's interesting that we, as humans, we forget that planet Earth, it's the planet of learning. It's the planet of polarity, of division, but we wouldn't embrace love if we didn't know hate. We wouldn't embrace someone who treats us really well if we hadn't been mistreated by someone else. Both sides of the coin are equally important. And planet Earth is not a vacation planet. We came here for the challenges. We came here for the growth and the evolution, to remember who we are in the midst of difficult and challenging times. Otherwise, I don't know about you, but growing up, and the guides are bringing this up, which is why I'm sharing it. But I grew up in a Christian family and within the Christian faith. And, there's this idea that you go to heaven and you like know all things. And all of a sudden, like everything is just kind of given to you, basically. And I remember as a kid thinking, well, that's boring. I feel like I would get so bored with that, like I've got questions and I'm curious and I want to have experiences. And this is very much the thing that we have to remember in the midst of our human experience, that the frequency of fear serves a beautiful purpose, that anger is one of the most spiritual emotions we can experience, that all of these things are here for a benefit and our purpose. And love is connected to all of it, right? Mm-hmm. And we will reconnect with that frequency of love when we remember that, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I so agree. We really need that contrast. Otherwise, we can't really appreciate the good things that are happening in our lives. So I would like to ask another question.
Yeah.
Are there specific energetic windows, months, or portals in 2026 that we should pay attention to?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Know that the middle of the year is going to bring about quite a bit within you. It's going to set things on fire, as they say, meaning that as of right now, that which will be taking place among the collective on the planet is going to bring about great change. For some, this will be great upheaval. For others, this will be bliss. But know that the middle part of the year has an enormous amount of energy around it. It will be a time of culmination and change that shifts things in a very different direction. This will be a time that requires self-care in the utmost, meaning that regardless of how you're moving through it, you want to do so mindfully. For so many, this will bring up the shadow within oneself, the places that need to be tended to, the wounds within your childhoods, the emotions that haven't been worked with. It will be a great time of purging. Understand that the rest of the year is really left quite open at this time, simply because there are so many changes that are taking place on the planet. And foundations must be laid. What will the collective choose to do? And they're just bringing up, I do Akashic forecasts on my podcast every month. And this question that they've been asking throughout the year is, who do you want to be in these times? And this is very important for us to sit with as we're stepping into 2026. Mm-hmm. The way that they were showing me this highlight around the middle part of the year, and it was just like flat lines outside of that. It's because as a collective, we haven't decided who we want to be. We haven't decided how we want to care for our neighbors, how we want to address the things that are happening on the planet right now. We're all kind of still in shock from what has been taking place the last couple of years. And it's important to understand that since the pandemic happened, every single year, our nervous systems have been getting more and more prepared for these times so that we can handle the capacity of the energetic changes that are taking place, but also so that we could get into more of a place where we can begin to make decisions. It's kind of like when you go through a traumatic event, like you have to begin to step out of that and to stop looking to change it or to go back to the way it was before, so that then you can start making decisions about how to move forward. And the past couple of years, people are like, they've been wanting to go back to how things were before the pandemic, right? And now as a collective, we're coming together and we're saying like, okay, we're feeling stronger, more capable. So how are we going to move forward? And so the timelines are very open right now. And from a numerology perspective, this is a 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
We literally are laying the foundation this year for the next period of time. And so what they most wanted to share with that was like really around the middle of the year. And I'm specifically seeing like really June through August. This is a major time of self-care in whatever way that means for you, and I would suggest really prioritizing fun, prioritizing time outside, prioritizing movement for your body, spiritual practice, and also being in community that is very supportive, because it feels like we're really going to need each other. Something's going to shift big time throughout that period of 2026.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. And that actually beautifully leads into my next question. What role will community and collaboration and soul family play in 2026?
Yeah. So these, of course, are very different things. First and foremost, to understand that coming together is going to be of utmost importance moving forward. However, it will be very important for you to not lose yourself amongst the group of any kind. You will need community for support, for partnership, for understanding that what is taking place within your life isn't just taking place within your life, so that you are not taking things as personally, so that you are able to tap into your own wisdom simply through the conversations with others about what is taking place. Understand that even though there is great emphasis around the work you must do within oneself this year, that you are not meant to be walking through these times on your own. It is imperative for you to have at least a couple of people in your life that you can lean on, depend on, and open yourself up to fully. However, we would encourage you to be mindful about those who are closest to you, so that you do not add additional pressure to the relationship. Coming together in community, certainly amongst like-minded people for the betterment of the planet, is something that we would like to see more of. And if you feel inspired to be a leader in this avenue, the planet would be very appreciative for that. Understand that your role is going to greatly depend upon, again, the question that we asked you: who do you want to be in these times? But being able to lean on one another is going to be very important. When it comes to soul family, understand that soul families will be continuing to move throughout their journeys the way that they have been. You may be coming into more contact with your soul families, or you may not, depending upon the journey that you are taking. But this is not necessarily an avenue that is coming to the forefront at this time. And it's interesting because, like, they're also saying this, that there's a great emphasis around difference right now. We all kind of want to like congregate together amongst, like-minded people. But it's very important to congregate around other types of communities that are very different, so that we can be educating ourselves, so that we can be having those conversations, so that we can be breaking down these ideas of this difference and what it means and who they are and who they may not be, and all of these things. We're being called into community. And so while it's important to have people in your corner that you can depend on and you can lean on and that can see you for who they are, there's also, it's about wrapping your arms around your neighbor who maybe is very different, maybe being kind to them, helping them out in some way, going out of your way to expand that community. So it's not just focused on the one or on one type. And it's interesting because they brought up this point that actually came up in, I think it was the December Akashic forecast, about being mindful of putting pressure for people that are closest to you to be kind of your everything in these times. So when it comes to like spouses or maybe a roommate, someone who's within like the same quarters as you, like living space, like being mindful to actually just be with them and actually spend more time like having fun and experiencing life instead of focusing on all the serious stuff. Actually kind of using outside relationships more for that, so that your relationship doesn't get bogged down by all that is taking place. Because those close relationships, you want to be able to really connect with what is greatest about them in these times. That's going to be fuel for you, versus like, wanting like your husband to be your best friend and your spiritual counselor and your accountant and your, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have to give space in those areas and reach out to those around us, because they're going to be going through their own stuff as well. And you don't want to lose the essence of whatever that relationship is.
Yeah. Very interesting that you're sharing that. And I'm really noticing that with myself and a lot of my friends, that we're starting to develop a support group of friends. And with different people, we have different things we can share and help each other and cheer each other on. And that way it's not all on one person. And even astrologically, with Pluto now being in Aquarius, really going out into more diverse ways of looking at relationships and what we need out of each one of those connections.
Yes. And the guides, they really want to emphasize, they're just, wanting me to bring this up, but just really to emphasize to not get lost in the group. We must maintain our discernment. We must maintain our individuality. We must maintain our own connection with self. Even if all of our friends are doing this thing and it looks cool, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right for you. We've got to come back to really looking at ourselves as the ultimate decider and how we're moving through life. Because with Pluto moving into Aquarius, there's also like the shadow side of that is getting lost in the community, right? And we want to be really mindful of that. And so, as we talked about before, like in their previous messages, again, self-responsibility is enormous in 2026. So we start there, and then we get to bring our more full selves to community, right? And that's when the community in and of itself also benefits the most, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful. I would like to get into some of the questions that our audience are asking the Akashic Records. I put a little call out yesterday, very short notice. And I have 4 people who responded, and I don't know if we're going to make it through all of them, but let's see how far we get.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one is from Derek, and he was actually a guest here on the podcast already a few episodes ago. And he is asking, has the densest layers of fear been transmuted by the collective? And are we now, as a collective, moving into a higher timeline based on love?
No. Understand that there are great difficulties ahead and on the road. You must understand that in many ways, people are moving through their own algorithms at this time, meaning that even for those listeners who are tuning into this podcast, spirituality and your spiritual path is something that is of great importance to you, which is wonderful. But you must understand that this is still a smaller percentage of the general population. For right now, people are living in great fear about what it is that is taking place on the planet, and certainly will be in the years to come. Fear is going to play a very big role because it is going to assist many in awakening on the planet and eventually stepping in to a more spiritual path, whatever that may look like for them. In that, you must understand that fear plays an important and even a positive role in what is taking place right now. What we can say is that this is why it is so important for you to be doing your own internal work, developing that love within yourself for yourself, so that it then spreads out to the world around you. For understand that it is your frequency that is going to assist in raising that of the planet. When you go to the grocery store, when you call customer service, when you get gas at the gas station, all of these seemingly pointless aspects of life are very important. And when you are taking care of yourself, you can assist in affecting others, perhaps by offering a helping hand, even smiling at a stranger, and especially when doing so to someone who has mistreated you in some way. But know that fear is not going anywhere, for there is so much that has to take place on the planet over the coming years, and it's playing a very important role. So I was literally seeing this as like a wave, that's kind of coming in. And it's interesting because, like kind of like you and I were talking about beforehand, Nadja, with the importance of challenge and in going through challenge, fear is a beautiful emotion. It's a necessary emotion and something that we must move through because it wakes us up. Maybe you get in a car wreck, right? And you almost lose your life. Guess what? Like you're probably going to act quite differently after that, moving forward. Fear plays such an important role. And it's because so much is going to be breaking down on the planet in the next several years. That is going to be a big component of the awakening that will take place on the planet. And so we don't want to get into this mindset of fear's bad. We have to get out of fear. We just have to learn how to understand fear, how to manage fear, and to ensure that fear isn't driving our bus, and to keep it where it belongs. Fear is beautiful because I actually did a whole course on fear a couple of years ago. And one of the things that the Akashic Records really talked about was how fear alerts us to what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's literally just like a signal that's like, hey, something's here, something's happening for you to pay attention to. It helps you to slow down. It helps you to be more present. It helps you to get into your body. Fear plays a really important role, and especially in these times. So, but in the midst of that, again, coming back to, the guides are just like, the love that you can generate for self right now is the greatest thing that you can assist in shifting, that wave and kind of balancing out, right? But the truth is, we're stepping into really hard times, and there's just no way around that. We have to be honest about it, but they're going to lead to better times, when it comes to healing. The Akashic Records, they taught me my own healing modality, my Akashic restoration sessions. And it's literally the first step is awareness. Second step is energetics. Third step is action. And they're showing me that this is what the collective has to move through, right? We have to go through this stage of awareness. Everything has to fall apart, right? And then, of course, the energetics, is going to be a major component of that. And then the action that we're taking, right?
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to best move through the next several years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that message. And yeah, we just have to really, truly remember that we need to come back to that self, and that the good, the bad, and the ugly is all going to be here. And how do we navigate through that without getting lost in it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So my next question is from Emma. And she's asking, will the Akashic Records be easier to access in 2026 for someone who is not trained, but on a spiritual path?
This was, my guides are chuckling. I should say the guides are chuckling. Yes, indeed. You must understand that the Akashic Records are always open and available for those who come to them with an open and pure heart to know, to experience, to be. Understand that the Akasha is around you at all times. When you get lost in moments of love, when you feel deeply content about life or fulfilled, you are accessing the Akasha. The Akasha is existing within that frequency of love. If you are wanting to work within the Akashic Records, then know that there is nothing standing in your way besides yourself, your limiting beliefs about what you can and cannot do, and your self-worth. The ideas you have about what is open and available and what is not. These are often the things that people most need to work through before they can fully experience all that the Akashic Records have to offer. But understand that working within the Akashic Records is open and available to all at this time on the planet. And yeah, they're just going into a number of different things here. What I can suggest, if you want to learn how to work within the Akashic Records, there's a lot of discussion and rhetoric online about how to access the Akashic Records. I use prayers when I teach my students. We utilize prayers to access the Akashic Records. And if you are brand new, then it is very important to use a prayer. Linda Howe has the Pathway Prayer. It's online. It's free. This is the best way to begin working with accessing the Akashic Records, because it's important to understand that there are fake Akashic Records within the astral realms. So if you're using some of these, meditations on YouTube or these types of things, you need to be very cautious and very aware of how it is you are going about accessing the Akashic Records. I teach people how to access the Akashic Records, but there's also Linda Howe's. She has a book, How to Read the Akashic Records. That was actually what kicked off my journey with the Akasha. And so that would also be a great place to start. But the Akasha was just giggling because they're like, honey, the only thing that's preventing you is you.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm really curious about it too. If we access it from the frequency of love, which is also the frequency of prayer, I assume, then we are actually accessing the authentic, the real records and not the false ones. And if we come in from a different frequency of fear, maybe we have access to different ones. Is that how it works? Or how can you explain that?
Yes and no. So I will tell you that I have a rich prayer life. I always have. And a couple of months after I was working in the Akashic Records, I was in prayer one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the Akashic Records. And that's just kind of like what the Akasha was talking about. When you find yourself in these deep places of love, fulfillment, contentment in life, you are in the Akasha. You're accessing that. However, accessing, like stepping into the energy of the Akasha versus being there purposefully and intentionally, is very different. And if you utilize a prayer that's like one of the reasons that I recommend the Pathway Prayer is because that prayer was specifically crafted for beginners. We must understand that our words are spells, right? They are frequencies. And for beginners, like, that prayer is what is best. It's a great place to start versus just, again, a random meditation on YouTube. And the beautiful thing about the Akashic Records is they will meet you where you're at. I have gone into the Akasha yelling, screaming, cussing about life. And they're like my best therapists. Sometimes I just go in and kind of lose my shit because that's where I'm at. And sometimes they'll do a healing on me energetically. Sometimes they'll talk to me. Sometimes they'll just be there because, that's what I need most in the moment. You don't have to be in the frequency of love to access the Akasha. But I will say the best frequency to be in when you access the Akasha is whatever is most authentic to you. So there's a lot of rhetoric there's a lot of ideas in the spiritual community. And I think it's kind of grounded in religious conditioning that you have to be very serious, and very reverent when connecting with the spiritual world. You want to be discerning, you want to be intentional, but I laugh, I'm goofy, I'm awkward. And when I'm in those spaces, that's when I'm able to work with the Akasha best, because that's my authentic energy. And so if you are someone who's more serious, then fine, it really doesn't matter. but you don't have to be in this, place of like total gratitude to access the Akasha at all. Mm-hmm. It really, honestly, is more about a pure want within your heart. And when you come to the Akasha and you are in a place of seeking and wanting and curiosity, that's the best. That's when they just like will blow you away.
Sounds beautiful. Thank you. The next question is from Tracy. And she is asking, we are in a time that's difficult to navigate for compassionate people. I also believe everything is always unfolding as it is meant to. So for the benefit of all, I would like to ask, how do we create a government system that serves the greatest, highest good of all? Will it finally be achieved through peace or protest? Are we being called to action or invited to sit with inaction?
Once again, this all comes back to the self. In order for the systems and structures in your world to be recreated, it will be about the people who have already recreated themselves, in essence, meaning that they have come back to who they are, meaning that they are living out more of who they are in their everyday. This all begins on the individual level. In regards to what can take place within governments across the planet, of course, it is very different indeed, for each country is very unique. But understand that it will be the individuals moving forward who choose to stand up, to be seen, to be heard, to use their voices for the benefit of all. In regards to how this change will be culminated, why it will be through so many different ways. There is not one. There will be peace, but there also will be protest. Let us expand on the frequency of love for a moment. There is this idea that love is a feeling, it's an emotion. It is a gentle wrapping of one's arms around another. But no, indeed, love also knows what is best for itself. Love says no. Love does not put up with someone else mistreating them. Love does not put up with systems and structures that mistreat others. Love is a very powerful action. It is a feeling. It is an emotion. It is all of the things. Love is the only answer to all issues, all questions, all dilemmas, all the things that are taking place on this planet. But love is going to look different for different people. Some of you will be loud, will be heavily involved, will take action, will get out there on the front lines, while others of you will create love within your home amongst your children, and they will go out into the world and change those around them. This is why it's so important for you to honor your path. At times, you may be called to stand up in protest, and at others, you may be called to donate, to spread the word, to assist your neighbor, to simply pick up trash on the side of the road. Understand that there is no one path for everyone, which is, again, why it's so important for you to be connected with self, for you to know what is right within you. Understand that there are endless amounts of causes upon this planet, and they will never, yes, we will say never, be fully taken care of. For planet Earth is meant to be a planet of polarity and will always be. She will always offer up lessons to those who choose to incarnate upon her, which is why she is such a popular planet. For souls can go through so much growth and evolution in any one given lifetime. But it will come from the actions of individuals who are then supported by communities who come together as groups and states who eventually make their ways into governments. But let us be very clear when we say, especially when we are speaking, and they like really kind of want to bring focus back to the United States here, and this example can be used elsewhere. The foundations that were put into place were never created for all. This is why they must fall. This is why the cracks are being seen. This is why people are coming in, running rampant and doing all kinds of things that you may find to be horrific, because they are showing you how broken these systems are and have always been. It's just that they have been neat and tidy. You have been distracted for so long and taught to look in other directions, be consumed by other issues than by those who were running this planet, certainly running this country. Therefore, what is most prudent for you to do is to require the change of these systems. That is what will bring about change within government. So, of course, it's such a complex topic. And of course, it's so different in every country, right? And then like here within the United States, we have different states. But the bottom line is that like here within the United States, our country was supposedly founded on freedom, but it wasn't freedom for all, right? We had slavery, women were treated terribly, just a number of different things. That is the foundation that the United States was created upon. And again, I'm using this example that can be, quite frankly, applied to the majority of governments around the world. And because of that, the system, the structure, the environment in and of itself is what is sick. This is what must be destroyed and absolutely be rebuilt, because it is the system that draws the individuals to it that then become corrupted by power, by fame, by money, by these types of things, because humans, like we are very imperfect. And, you know, so wasting time focusing on individuals is just that. It is wasting time. We must put our focus and our emphasis on the structures and on the systems and how they must be rebuilt. We must look to find solutions, better ways of doing things. But this very much starts at an individual level. And of course, you know, they were showing me individuals, right, who are beginning to pop up, who are really wanting to create this change, especially again, here within the United States, as an example. And there are individuals who are popping up in other countries, right? We've got the new president in Mexico. She's amazing in what she's doing there. That was like one of the people that they were bringing forward. But the whole point just being is that it's going to be the individuals as well who are going to put their life on the line, who are going to move into these places, who are meant to do that work, right? But we have to look to the structures first and foremost. Mm-hmm. So again, if we're expending all of this energy on hating someone, we're wasting that energy. We're wasting that time that could instead be looking at like maybe our local level, starting there. And then that gets, from there, it expands, right?
Yeah.
We can't just be like, this needs to change. We've got to start in smaller increments and move out from there. I hope that was helpful. Because again, it's like, such a general question that it's hard to kind of encompass everything in one response.
Yeah. And again, it's all coming back to love. As long as we act in accordance with love, be that we are taking action somehow or inaction, if it's in accordance with love, and we have that vision towards that future that we actually want to step into, then it's the right path forward. That's what I'm getting out of that. Is that right?
And the thing is, the guides are they're offering up this example. I don't know where most of your listeners are based out of, but they keep bringing me back to the US, probably because that's my, experience at this time. But it's like, instead of wasting time being like, we have to get Trump out of office because he's, 1, 2, 3, whatever, focusing instead on like, I want to create this system within my community. I want to help better and improve this system within my community or these people in my community, right? We only have a finite amount of energy. Where are we going to place it? In being really pissed off or in helping create solutions, And that's where we have to, again, come into self and be like, okay, where can I best serve? Again, the Akasha is like, who do you want to be in this time, right? Mm-hmm. And that's crucial, because when you get clear on that, then you will know what path is best for you, and you will feel confident about what you're spending your energy doing.
Thank you. We're coming towards the end, but I would like to ask one final question. Jody sent in and she said, I have heard a lot about water being the next element of scarcity and monetization. If I had any questions, it would probably be around that, seeing as I'd love to land in a water-rich area and never be without that resource.
So she didn't really ask like a specific question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the guides, like, what do we most need to know about water scarcity on the planet? And that way they can kind of feed into whatever it is that wants to come up around that.
Yeah, thank you for that.
It's important to understand that there will always be something to be fearful about. If you allow yourself to get caught up in one scarcity idea, then you will always get caught up in scarcity ideas. It's important to change the perspective to, I will always be taken care of. Everything will always be readily available for me when I need it to be. Yes, indeed, there will be water scarcity in some area of the planet moving forward. Yet at the same time, there will be an overabundance in other areas. Understand that solutions will always arise. And while there will be people who wish to manage and control water on this planet, there will be others who come in and provide it. Please know that these are distractions and that it's important for you to instead feed into the more positive things that are taking place on this planet so that you don't lose yourself in the midst of it. Mama Gaia is going through so many changes and will be so in the years to come. But know that water will always be available when it is most needed, and solutions will abound. Yet we cannot say that there won't be issues in some areas of the world. And, basically what they're trying to say here is just that, like, gosh, it's like one thing after another, after another, after another, right? Like one thing to get freaked out about, it's never ending. There's always going to be something. And yes, water is something that, it's a natural resource, but like there are military devices that can turn salt water into regular water. There are going to be, as our needs change on this planet, there are going to be people who step in and create solutions for it. So we need not worry. And it was like, they were showing me, it's like on this planet, we have some places that are super dry. They're going through that and they're really suffering, while other places, and a lot of places on the planet right now, are being flooded, right? We're seeing that so much on the planet this year, right? And so, and that's going to be part of what we're moving through as we move forward as a collective. There's going to be a lot of something and then a little of something. And we just have to know that for ourselves personally, like truly, we have to be able to kind of step into the frequency of like, I will always have everything that I need to have, and to really be in that. Because it is true. You will always have everything that you need, and the universe is not going to abandon us. Everything that's taking place is for a purpose and a reason. But some places on the planet are meant to go through dryness. Others are meant to go through wetness. And of course, there are people who will want to capitalize on that. But there will be other people who will come in and provide solutions, is what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So, again, they're just saying like these distractions, there's so much, and we have to be really mindful of where our attention is going, what we're focusing on right now. Are we feeding into this energy of fear, or are we feeding into, the energy of solutions, of change, of, okay, everything is going to fall apart and it's going to be hard and I'm going to have everything I need in the midst of it. And I believe in that and I trust in that because again, we're the creators of our everyday life. We're the creators of our world. The Akasha has shown me so many times. It's really wild. It's like all of us are kind of like encapsulated by our own bubble walking through life, right? And it is our own world. And the things that are happening in the exterior are reflections of things that are happening internally. And when we can start shifting that perspective, then it becomes less about like, oh my gosh, this might happen or this might happen. Instead, it becomes like, okay, what is this showing me? What is happening here? What do I need to maybe notice within myself? And it becomes like this sort of adventure and we get curious about it, you know? We just have to be so mindful of our energy at this time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I don't know how you close the records.
Yeah. Let's close the records. Let's close the records real quick. That way we can close this energetic container. Thank you, God and Holy Spirit, for allowing me to help guide the listeners of the Wake Up Protocol. Thank you for your love and compassion, teaching with gratitude. The record is now closed. Amen. Record is now closed. Amen. Closed. Amen. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. I will say this, and I'm not saying this to be nice or cute or friendly, but like the energy of your audience is really beautiful. Like you've created such a nice, loving sort of community around this podcast. It feels really good.
Yeah, thank you. Been getting really positive feedback from the people who have been listening, and I'm just really happy that these stories land with my audience and that we get to share them with a bigger audience than just me in conversation with one person. Thank you so much for your time. This is the first time I've experienced an Akashic Records reading. It was really eye-opening and beautiful. So absolutely appreciate that. And if you have any offerings that you want to share with our audience and how they can find you, now would be a great time to do that.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my link tree with Nadja because I have a number of different links. I'm going to be hosting, this is an annual event, my 2026 Akashic Clearing and Channeling Circle at the end of this month. Highly recommend attending. I'll be taking you through my Akashic healing modality in addition to personally channeling for attendees. It's a beautiful way to kick off the current year, step into the new year really refreshed. Plus, you'll be able to use that restoration process throughout 2026. Also, I only open up my books to do personal Akashic readings like 2 to 3 times a year. I am doing that at the beginning of this year. So if you would like to book an Akashic reading with me, you can do that. And if you want to learn how to read the Akashic Records, I have a self-study course that you can dive into at any time. And my third cohort for my Access Your Akashic Soul, which is my big nerdy deep dive, like 10-week course, will be kicking off in 2026. And you can join the waiting list for that. We're now kind of wrapping up the second cohort, and you get to not only learn how to read the Akashic Records, but also how to conduct Akashic restoration sessions, which are my healing modality. And I'm like a first line in human design. And so I dive really deep and it's packed full of lots of engagement, lots of interaction, lots of materials. It's incredible. So you can check those out. And contact me, reach out. If you just want to nerd out with me, I'm here, I'm online. I'd love to support you in any way that I can.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I will put all the links in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation, Ahna.
Thank you, Nadja.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Wake Up Protocol. If you like what you heard, share this episode with 3 people who need to hear this message. And if you want to go deeper, head to thewakeupprotocol.com and sign up for our email list. That's where we share behind the scenes insights, bonus resources, exclusive invites, and the kind of guidance we only send to our community. And if this is the last thing you hear from us, all we'd like to say is keep going, trust yourself, follow your heart. Until next time, have a safe and happy journey.